a race above that that had etheric matter. There are races of beings, not just individual parts of yourself, but individual parts of races that went all the way up the dimensional scale. There's a stellar heritage here that has been totally banned from our history books by the Anunnaki primarily, because they wanted to be able to manipulate from behind the scenes like little humans down in a petri dish. We're the little sheep to play with, and just make sure they don't know too much, because they might rebel and decide they don't want to play, your God and we're subservient anymore. The information that we're giving here on the DNA, on who we are, is essential to understanding who indigos are, because you can see where they differ, but it's also a revelation for us. It's our chance to grab this information and run, to get out of the mind control, distorted history nonsense we have been taught for years and centuries and thousands of years, to say, wait a minute, there's a part of me that remembers some of this. I did come from somewhere higher, and this is the way it works. That's when you throw out the history books and say, all right, let me remember how it works. Let me remember how to reclaim this. Let me remember how to do cellular transmutation, for one. That would be really great. I don't have to incarnate down here in the densities anymore. Yes. Yeah, just start to remember. We got to realize we're part of a huge evolution program. And the only reason we don't know this is because when we were in our very small, just beginning to evolve down here days, each time we were thrown down here with the lower strands, the ones who were controlling this design, some of them decided they weren't going to let us in on the secret. Others decided they were going to take this original design and do something completely different with it and hijack it. There are beings in Harmonic 2 that have 11th dimensional consciousness. They have the ability to have 11 strands of DNA. Do not want humans to get back to being 12-strand DNA. Why? We'll have a whole other dimension of consciousness beyond their own. We'll have stronger genetic capacity than their own, and we will be more powerful, aware, and intelligent than they are. We will be a force to contend with, because we will realize at that point what they did to the evolutionary cycles of our race here. And they're very nervous that we may be very upset when they find out how, by being so helpful, they mutated this race, where it took many more thousands of years to move through this design than it was supposed to. It was not supposed to take all these millions of years to get the 12-strand pattern back. That happened because continually races that did not want this race to evolve back into what it was made sure they interrupted the evolutionary cycles, or hijacked it, or mutated it, or took it this way, or took it that way, just so it doesn't go back to the 12-strand pattern. Many of our religious teachings were purposely seated there to put us in subservience to some God figure, not teach us the essential mechanics at all, and to make sure we never realized that we were embodiments of Creator. We didn't need middlemen. We have power in the fact that we are part of Creator, just like those higher beings that like to play God are. They didn't want us to know this. Our race has been mutated repeatedly. This is one of the reasons why the indigos are back. Because at this point, if it doesn't get changed, if some intervention isn't done, our gene code is going to go right down the tubes, and we will completely lose as a race this capacity. It will be mutated out of the potentialities down here, and we'd have to reseed the whole thing all over again. The ones in higher harmonics who have assisted us in getting this far are very tired too. They're tired of it getting to a certain level and collapsing again. It's like trying to build a snow fort, and every time you get to the roof it falls in, and you have to start over. After a while you say, maybe on to another project. You give up. They don't want to give up. The ones who are really our elder races, what we came out of, they don't want to give up on our evolution here. But if they let it get any further down, if it goes any further down, it's going to be a whole other race. This race that we're turning into now, by the mutations we carry and by amplifying those, will completely block out our ability to reclaim the 12-strand pattern. We will become something that was not particularly foreseen or intended, a different type of consciousness that is three-dimensional, stuck in three-dimensional phase lock, will always be finite until it burns itself out and turns back into dust, dust into dust. If we evolve to the 12-strand pattern, we will be able to progressively accrete or bring to ourselves the higher levels of consciousness, move out of incarnation cycles in Harmonic 1 up into Harmonic 2, then up into Harmonic 3, and move our way out of density while retaining our memory and our sentient identity. If you take that potential away and you cut something off at the 3rd strand, what you're doing is making it so they can get up to the 3rd dimension, 3rd dimensional consciousness. At that point, the body shuts down and dies. the consciousness leaves the body, goes up into the higher bands without a body for a little while, has to find another body, create another body down here, and it reincarnates again, over and over and over, until eventually the amount of consciousness that was held within that original three-dimensional part of the consciousness gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You're using up energy, and you've cut off the supply, the perpetual supply that comes from direct connection to source through the higher identities. When that happens, gene codes digress, and when that happens, consciousness gets to the point where it can't hold a human pattern. It can't incarnate anymore into a human form. So it goes backward instead of forward into evolution. It goes into de-evolution, back into eventually space dust, or units of consciousness within the lower three-dimensional fields that will become used to manufacture other constructs of consciousness. You can always be a part, you're always part of God, and you can do it in two ways. Being sentient, fully aware of who you were, who you are now, and your whole identity and consciousness are intact, or you can simply not be self-aware at all and exist within God as part of the substance that God creates with. It's up to us whether we want to evolve up into cognition or simply be space dust to be used for other beings who have cognition that are creating things. We're always part of it. We're always part of the universe. This is always part of it. This has been our plan. This has been what we have been denied for very, very long. I'm going to put one more out before we go. What do we got there? All right, we'll just go back to this. I'm getting told I need a break here. Are you guys ready for like a, yeah? All right, am I throwing too much at you? Yeah, we didn't even find out what indigos really are yet. Yeah. Once you find out what it means as far as identity, it's mind-blowing. It really is. I'm very relieved because it took me till I was 35 to finally understand what the hell I was. Okay, to put it bluntly, I knew I was different. That became very, very obvious. It became extremely obvious when from the age of like 7, I had beings from other dimensions coming in and taking me through portals into inner earth and training me and doing all sorts of things that, forget even trying to explain to a psychologist, they warned me not to. I was told, don't even go there. This is between us. You will understand someday. And progressively, we worked with it. But I am so relieved. I finally understand what I am because I understood the stuff about the DNA and the levels and dimensions. The indigos are coming, and it's a real relief to me because I'm not alone. Yeah, and neither are the people. There may be indigos sitting here right now that you don't know you're an indigo yet either. I didn't know when I first came in. I just knew, boy, was I different. There was something that didn't quite fit here, and I progressively had experiences that took me further and further into paranormal land, you know, extraordinary experience. And I couldn't understand for a long time why. There may be people here that by finding this information, you have a new framework now. You might be saying, do I fit into that? Maybe I do. Gosh, maybe I'm an indigo. And when you start to realize what that means in terms of identity, who you are that's coming in here, you start to have some self-respect and start to get your priorities together because you say, oh, geez, yeah, I'm an indigo. That resonates. Oh, my God, I did come here to do something. You know, I'm starting to remember what I came here to do. I was part of a World Service team. We're here to try to stop pole shift. The indigos are here for huge reasons that our scientists are not even ready to fathom. And we'll talk more about pattern. Now, if you look at each one of those lines, it's a strand of DNA, which is a primary flash line sequence of scalar waves that hold the consciousness. Each one is a frequency of consciousness. Taurinicium, 12-strand humans, could hold 12 dimensions of consciousness in a hominid form and would have full access to transmutational mastery in 4 harmonics, 12 dimensions of consciousness and of dimensional field, which gives them access to, by the way, 12 dimensions worth of time continuum cycles, because time cycles and time continua are all connected to these flash line sequences. We get a linear time progression because of the orientation of the DNA flash line sequences to that of the dimensional bands, and that's a whole other workshop too. So we'll just get into this for a minute. We have what's called the 12-strand diamond sun silicate matrix DNA pattern. That was the Taurinicium design. Before that, there was something called the double diamond sun, 24-strand DNA matrix. What that meant was, you take a Taurinicium and you take its antiparticle double. You take the 12 strands from here and the 12 from there and you put them together and you get something else entirely. It transmutes to a whole different life form that has the ability to hold 24 dimensions of consciousness. It has the ability to hold the memory banks of particle and antiparticle Earth, Terra, and Gaia. It has the ability to be simultaneously aware of itself in the various time vectors, not just one single vector consciousness.